Some people burst, but I thrive under pressure. I hold them down from distance like I was playing catcher. I pray to God, life is crazy, you know he'll test you. For real. Yeah, you know he'll test you. I'm a living legend in the making, don't care what you think about it. The only time I step inside a bank is for deposit. Failure's always present, but for me it's not an option. Cause I gotta feed my family and I know the critics watch. They don't want to see you win, so they gon' try to stop it. A humble guy until you cross that line, then I'm a pop. Choking out the competition on my Sergi Baca. Don't associate with lames and haters. Oh guys, well we are back.
Hiatus.
It's been like what, two and a half weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah, 2.5 weeks. I was meddling around in South Dakota,
Man, I've been lost these past 2 weeks, Kiani. I've been lost.
But that's okay. We found you. We got the perfect guest to find you too.
Seriously. Today, guys, welcome to season. Jesus, that's how I let you know how long it's been.
Episode 13.
Episode 13 of The Process, where it's DeAndre, your guy, Mr. Kiani, and we have Mrs. Camille Valentine with us today. And it's going to be a very interesting conversation, as she is, as Kiani says, the chameleon.
The chameleon of success. One of those people that can do everything. You know what? I used to think it was very, bad when I was younger, that if you were only good at one or two things. And then I realized, well, mate, that might be a blessing, because when you're good at almost everything, sometimes that can be a headache. And people out there who are really good at a multitude of things, they'll understand that, because it's like, okay, what do I want to actually focus on? I can do this, and this well. So,
man, I just had this conversation with one of my friends. He owns a studio here where I record music at. And we were talking, and I was telling him, like, when it comes to music, I can do country music, I can R&B, I can rap, like I can do it all. And he was saying, like, the thing for you, there's so many positive things that you can do that you almost need to focus on just one, because it's like the more positive things you have going on, it kind of just fizzles out. And so I've had like a hard time kind of adjusting to just one thing, because I feel like I'm depriving myself of gifts that I have in just these other genres. Whereas from a musician, I'm like, I just want to write music. I don't care if it's country, pop, rock. I don't care. I just want to write music. But now it's like you're so boxed in to just this one thing, and I don't like it.
That's how it is. But Camille, the wonderful West Coastian. So first of all, let's get a bit of backstory on Camille before we get into the success and the trivials of how she got to her success. When you were growing up, what did you think your future looked like? In your mid-teens to early 20s.
Growing up for me, it was difficult because I had lost my mom and my dad very early in life at 8 and 9 years old. So I really did not know exactly what the future looked like for me, other than I knew I needed things to change. I knew I was going to be different. I knew I wasn't going to do what everyone else tried to do. We were already coming up out of the hood. I grew up in a marginalized community, and I knew I was going to be different. And I also knew I was going to be great. And I just set out to do that.
What were some of the difficulties you faced in the sense of, like, I look at you right now and just being 100% honest, like, I get queen vibes, powerful, strong. I get those vibes. Were there ever moments as you were, growing up where it was like you kind of faced people being like, you think you know it all? You think like, were there ever moments like that for you growing up where it's just like, no, this is who I am. I'm not trying to be anything other than, this is just
who I
me.
am.
Yeah.
The problem was, I love how we started the show off tonight, because we're talking about being multi-dimensional, multi-talented.
Mhm.
And I like to say that's pretty much what my introduction is with people is very difficult for me to say like who I am in one word because I am multidimensional. I can coach, I can teach, I can facilitate, I can be a problem solver. Um, like I can make you feel good. I can be a healer. I can be a spiritual guide. On a
Mhm.
different day, it depends on what God is calling me for because I use my body, myself, my life as an instrument for
Mhm.
peace, for for weaponry, if you will, like strategic. And so
Right.
it depends on what it is, but I do know that with a large purpose, and for those of us who's out there in the audience, if you have had a calling on your life, if you felt that you've had this unction and fire in your belly to overcome something and you are met with extreme opposition, that's why. It's because your purpose is so great and your impact is going to be so huge that the enemy knows you're there too. It's just that, oh God, I'm his chosen one and we're to go off into the world and not have any opposition. No, we face opposition on a daily basis, but it's training for me. It's training. And so some of those challenges I've had to overcome, aside from losing my mom and my dad very early on, is who became my caretaker. Now,
Mhm.
my caretaker was my great grandmother, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. But
Mhm.
because of how she was raised and because of what was deposited in her, she didn't have to give to me what I needed from her. So that for me created, mentally a bit of a naivete coming up, and not having the the depth to understand personalities and sometimes dysfunctional personalities like narcissistic personalities like just people who are manipulative and who are users. When they see a nice person and when they see you have gifts and when they see you have all these talents, they want to capitalize on that. They want to use that. They see you as a flower. They don't want to come and water the flower. They don't want to see the flower grow. They want to come and pluck the flower. They want to come and cut the flower. They want to come and possess the flower and put it over here in this little, container to just become um, the muse for that thing. But that's not my whole purpose and function. And
Mhm.
so I'm more than that. And it's difficult, like you said, Brother DeAndre, when someone is trying to make you choose, how do you just focus on just one genre of music when you have all these musical notes
Yeah.
that's going along in your head every day and every night? Like you feel
Yeah.
like you got to capture that. So I get it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That you made me think about something I heard DMX talk about. He talked about when he was young, how there was this butterfly that he saw, right? And he said like it went into his neighbor's yard and he was like, I tore my neighbor's yard up trying to catch this butterfly. And he said, and he was like, the butterfly was huge. And he's like, when he caught it, he ended up killing it. And he was like, the thing that he learned from that was the moment we try to possess something as ours, we hold it, we limit it, and then we kill it. And he was like, the thing that he was supposed to do was just admire the beauty of the butterfly. And if that butterfly were to fly and land on his shoulder, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then let it release. And I feel like that is a major, major problem today where we want to hoard and possess something as, oh, this is mine, and not realizing that like literally everything that we have is rented to us.
Right.
Like,
That story would have been much better if you did it in your DMX voice, but since you didn't, it was just kind of okay. Well, DeAndre, I always do this with you. Like when we talk about the people who give up easily on personal training, I always try to look at a couple other sides of things because nothing's absolute. We have those people that are exactly like you're saying, but then we also have some people in understanding mentalities. You have people who haven't had anything or have come from a place where they didn't think they deserved anything, whether they were taught that or they feel that emotionally. So sometimes when they feel like they're out kicking their coverage, let's say you're a guy and you're getting this beautiful, just ridiculously smart woman that you had no idea was in your in your scope that you could get her, and sometimes you don't know how to act or treat that, so sometimes it can come from that mindset as well. You've never had something and now you want everything. Once you get the
Mm.
taste of how that feels, and now you want it all. Not saying that's good, but there's some mentalities too that attribute to that behavior, other than just the cynical, one that where they just comes from a negative spot.
I get it. And I acknowledge that. And
Mhm.
I can appreciate that perspective. And what I'll also add is that, we're all just traumatized, honestly. We're all
Yeah.
adults. I'm going back to my psychology. I'm going to go into my psychology bag. And what I realize is that there's about 70% of the world's population that has been given the amount of attention that they needed as a child, that was
Mhm.
hugged as a child, that was affirmed as a child. And then there's this 30% that didn't receive any of that. And so they grow up missing things, just like I miss things, like not having a mom or a dad. Of course, I grew up with abandonment
Mhm.
issues. I grew up wanting love. I grew up missing what it is like, for that generation, my father to teach me how a man is supposed to treat me. I missed all that.
Mhm.
So then I run into the second largest barrier and obstacle of my life, which is now coming into relationships and the toxicity therein. Because now we're going to be dealing with people who are narcissistic. And that's what I got, was a narcissistic husband. And that relationship started when I was in high school, started off beautiful, produced a king of a son. And because we were not able to, as you say, DeAndre, release, let it go, now that relationship turned more toxic. And so I had to overcome the domestic violence. So I have that, at
Mm.
some point in time, I was just like, God, this is not what I wanted to experience. But I had to experience it because now I understand what that's like. And now I also have remedies for other women who are going through this as well, which is over like 40% of our population
That was
of
gonna be my
women.
next
So,
question. How many people do you encounter that deal with that?
mm.
Because for me, I grew up um,
And
where
men too. Yeah,
yeah,
men
I
experience domestic violence too.
Well, it's funny. Bill Burr always says this thing when he gets into it with his wife, and his wife goes, "You're crazy." He goes, "How many stories do I have to tell you about my childhood before you connect the dots?"
Right.
seriously, man. Seriously, I grew up in a household where um mom, I love y'all. So if y'all ever watch this, just know this is what's true to me. This is my perspective, okay? You know,
Right.
but I grew up in a house where for the first 5 years of my life, it was just me and my mom, right? Then my little brother comes on. I met my stepdad when I was one,
Mhm.
maybe 2 years old. And he was a part of our life for 16 years, and then he cheated on my
Mhm.
mom, and now there was a lot of stuff that happened in between.
Mhm.
Um, but my father lived in the same city as me, and
Mhm.
there would be times where I wouldn't see my dad for months, and then he'd pop up at my uncle's house, and I'd see him, and there would be like a 2 week time where I'm with him, or I go to my grandmother's house on my dad's side, and I'd see him. But there was this constant in and out of
Mhm.
my life, where I do not remember having one conversation with my
Mhm.
dad or my stepdad on how to treat a woman. Not
Right.
one. I cannot tell you one conversation. Um,
Mhm.
I cannot tell you one conversation I've had with my father or my stepfather or even my uncles on um, what a husband looks like,
Right.
the responsibilities of a husband.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so I get married. I'm divorced now, but I get married, and then there's this. I married a white woman, I'll say it, married a white woman, and there was this. Her parents had been together for 25 plus years, so she's seen it. So there's this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm effing up, as you will, the entire process, and it's driving this wedge further and further between me and my wife. But it's like after a certain point, I remember being told you cannot keep using the excuse I didn't know,
Yes.
which I understand that, but it's like I can't. You can't just. I can't.
But you really didn't know.
I didn't know. It's like I didn't know. So it's like while you had some sort of playbook or some sort of uh, idea of what it's supposed to look like,
Right.
all of my role models growing up were married but still talking to other women.
Mhm.
Um,
All right,
e-
well, here's the thing with that, because
Right.
again, everything you're saying is spot on. I'm not going to get into my child growing up because then we'll just end up doing a talk show and forget about our guest. But uh, even the things that I didn't know, there's one thing of you doing stuff that you don't know. Got it. But then there's still thing because of your character where you can feel if it's wrong or not.
yeah.
So that's the part. Not knowing and then doing something that you know is wrong, or are
Mhm.
you not doing something because you don't know? It's like that's like two different lanes. Like for instance, if I didn't know that, hey, um,
Mhm.
if I have a large amount of female friends, it might irritate the wife depending on who it is. Okay. And if I don't know, if I claim not to know that or understand that, but I should know that hanging out late at night on a Friday night with a girl that my wife has no idea who it is, I should
It's not
know
exactly.
that that's
Yeah.
But
not right. Yeah.
my response would be, which I understand, and
Hmm.
you're right. But let's say you grew up where the people who are supposed to be teaching you what is right
Hmm.
and wrong,
Hmm.
they are quote unquote with women who they love, but
Hmm.
yet on a Friday night they are with women their spouses don't know, and they're making it seem like this is okay. So for
I
you
grew up
coming,
like that. It
so
was
for you,
reversed. It was reversed though. And here's the thing, because what you're saying, DeAndre, is true. Uh, Dang, put my parents' business out here like this. But mama was doing a lot, and I didn't know, but I could tell something was wrong.
mhm,
Even as a kid, and then as a teenager, you really do know because what depending on how early you recognize, you're still seeing the effects, right?
Mhm.
You're still seeing mama and daddy used to live in the same room when I was 6. Mommy and daddy are no longer in the same room when I was 11. Mommy and daddy are no longer together when I was 12. So
mm,
even though I was seeing those, you were seeing those things, but you were seeing the effects. How early it takes you to understand those effects. Like you're still learning without being taught, is what I'm saying.
mhm.
If you
But no, I
Yeah.
not to cut you off though. I like to jump
Mhm.
in there because
Oh, you
that was
can. Yeah, you on the show.
okay. So,
And
but you know what I'm
everything
saying?
we're saying, everybody that's listening, every point that we're coming isn't the definite answer. We're all giving
Like, exactly.
different.
They're all
I don't want to use
perspective.
that word perspective. We have a show for that, but we're all giving our different insights, and because nothing's absolute, doesn't mean everybody. So we just want y'all to know that out there. Go ahead, Camille.
Well, what I was going to say was that there's two sides to how basically I transcended the hurt and the mindset from
Mhm.
all of this, because I had to come to a level of forgiveness for my ex-husband. We divorced, we went through all these things. And again, he grew up just like you, DeAndre. He did not have the good examples. He did not know. He was also riddled with trauma and just generational trauma that we don't even recognize because also we've got the social injustices dealing with our environment and society that also brings in these programs that keeps us at odds with one another, that is there to continue to break Black men and Black women in the relationships, keep them divided and apart. So a lot of this is by design. And we fall into these
Mhm.
pitfalls. And so what I have come to understand, but this is through my spirituality and a spiritual awakening that I had in 2020, where I came into this awareness that everything that I have been through, all the pain, all the drama, all the losses, all the disappointments have been in place because I selected them to be in place. This is my soul's contract. You understand? And those of you who are following me, if you've ever been through a spiritual awakening, then maybe you can understand what I'm saying. But what I mean is that before you came to this planet, if I'm coming at it and looking at this through the lens of African spirituality, the spirit never dies. And I
Mhm.
came here already having agreed to go through these things so that I can remember who I am and what I am
Mm.
here to do. Because let's just say, if everything is static, we don't appreciate nothing. We are having duality. We had a period of nothing but masculine energy. Now we're at a season of it being flipped, and now we're having more divine feminine energy because it's time for things to be balanced out in the cosmos. So, where I am in my life is I've come to a level of acceptance, and I've learned to just look at the pearls from all those trepidations that I've been through, all the problems, everything. And I've come to appreciate life because had it not been for those things, I wouldn't be here. Had it not been for those things, I would not have the fire in my belly to overcome whatever comes in my way. Because now I'm connected to my higher self, my purpose, the most high, and I see through the matrix. That means I see through these programs and I no longer subscribe to them.
Awesome. So, what was the career path in your early years, like your mid 20s, um, before you got to the career path that you're on now? What did you ascribe to be?
Honestly, I set out to become a clinical psychologist. And I actually started with human development, criminal justice, took a detour and got a degree in information systems management,
Mhm.
which helped me more so with organizing data and compartmentalizing things in my mind and my life.
Mhm.
Um, but for the most part, it still all had to do with humanitarian type of work. So then I got into real estate for a number of years. You always have to have that wealth component.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And, mind, body,
Mm.
spirit is what I was going by. Mind, body, spirit, work, study, exercise daily. This is a warrior goddess, regimen to
Mhm.
overcome the challenges that is before us as a Black woman living in America.
Mhm. When did you decide to go? Because anybody here who's ever, I've got two master's degrees. I got healthcare management, and then I went to start to get a doctorate, and I got three-quarters of the way due, and I was like, eh. So I just got to the creating your doing your dissertation part, but one of the biggest things I learned while getting that doctorate, because of course, when you do your papers, you've got to get all your sources right, and it's not one of
Yes.
those things where you can have 10 sources, right? You've got to have like
No.
50.
Yes,
And
minimally.
I did a really good paper, and I had about 72 sources. I remember the exact number of sources I had,
Okay,
72 sources, and I
that's
got a
good.
D. And I
What?
got a D. The biggest lesson I learned that day, and I thought that paper was so good. And the teacher, I've never heard this, the professor said, the reason why you got a D instead of an A. Now I've heard the reason why you got a D instead of a C, or a C instead of a B, or B instead
Right,
of
but
an A.
the
He said the reason
the
why you got a D instead of an A is you had 72 sources. I counted them, and not one of them disagreed with you.
How is
oh,
that my
And
fault?
I was like,
well, he
but I
needed a
thought I'm
balance.
supposed to find stuff to fit my argument. He's like, how can you grow if no one disagrees with you?
Mm.
He said, you're about to go into dissertation phase, and you could spend the next whatever years working on this dissertation, and you finally 3 years in, you find someone who disagrees with you and realize they are more right than you are, and now what happens? And I was like,
Yeah.
That makes
oh,
sense. That makes sense.
yeah. But that's that thing of, people will find whoever agrees with them, and it doesn't help bring nuance to the conversation. Um,
Yeah.
so
I'm
right
sorry
now,
that happened to you.
but this is the part
Dang,
I wanted to
that's
get
some
to.
hard
It was
work.
my long way of getting to this question for you. You're in dissertation phase, you're writing your dissertation, you're doing all the work, and then you decide, hey, I want to get into acting and modeling. What?
Okay, I'll tell you the so okay. So how that happened was what had happened was I've always had an affinity for the movies. Like I could recall movies right now. That's how we talk. We talk in movie scenes at home, you know. But I used it as a huge inspiration and a great escape to just travel outside my mind. You know what I'm saying? Outside of my present circumstances. So I ended up choosing career, choosing the generational curse breaker, all the things that I was supposed to do to
Mhm,
fulfill my soul's contract, right? But the
mhm,
other part of this is I had a son and I focused on being a mom.
mhm,
And I released the notion that I would be a model or an actress one day, or that I would come back to it later in my life. Well, short of the long is London goes off to college. I finished my duties. I'm still in school all this time. I didn't went and got a bachelor's in information systems management. Then I went and got another bachelor's in criminology and restorative justice, and went on to do amazing work in the criminal justice field, and started my business as a mediator and climbed the ranks until I couldn't go anymore. Put all these programs in the Fresno Unified Courts districts, the court system, and have done all this amazing work, been honored, have been recognized by my city, all of it. And then I come to a place where now I need a master. So I get a master's of peacemaking in criminal studies. And then I go through my divorce. So I got my master's because I was really trying to solve my marriage, but I was
Mm.
also being called into this ministry. And so from there, that's how I ended up getting into deciding, do I want to become an attorney, or do I want to become a what I was at the time, I was going for like a forensic psychologist because of the criminal background stuff. But I found my heart in space in organization development. This psychology degree still ended up back to where I was supposed to be in the end. But throughout that process, my son got recruited for JC, for John Casablancas. Because he was underage, I had to be there to give consent. And so I'm there in his audition, and they were like, "Wait a minute, who is this woman? That you're wait, that's your mom?" And they were like, I'm his mom." And then of course, they said do X, Y, and Z, and I was like, "Showtime!" Like, it was fun. I mean, this is what I do. This is how we live. We just have fun, and we just always reenact these stories. And so they were like, "Take a picture here and do this." I had props on my desk and sunglasses, and they see, no, I got a call back right away. Went through JC, graduated, Avanti, got the opportunity, which I'm sure I had amazing coaches who supported me in that journey. Hint, hint. I won't say his name. Can you only see this? But anyway, um, I had support and auditioned just a couple of days ago for Avanti. Got a call back, signed a contract, and here I am. So I'm gonna merge the
Don't worry,
two.
DeAndre's following your path too. He just don't know it yet.
Yes, this is an amazing journey. I'm telling you. I mean, I just really have
So
tried to be
I got a
open
question
to spirit.
because
Yes,
I'm hearing all these things you were doing. To get it correct, you were still going to school while you were raising your kid, or was that afterwards?
always
So
in
how
school.
do you feel? Well, it's a because DeAndre is going to ask you the giving. When did you ever want to give up questions and all of that?
I was
Um,
Oh,
not.
how do you how do you feel when you hear people say that can attribute to a marriage not being successful because you focused on your goals more than your marriage and your child, which is I find ridiculous, but you hear that out there. Oh, but right, you hear that out there, right? You should
I do.
focus on family, and then if you want to do all that stuff, go do it later. You
Hmm.
know, what do you say to knuckle draggers who bring up things like that? Because a lot of prominent people have said that the families are being destroyed today because the women are out working and trying to get careers instead of keeping the family together. Not me. I'm not saying that, but you know that rhetoric is out there, Camille. How do you
I
address
do.
that?
I do. I tell them straight up, I stayed home the first 5 years of my son's life.
Mhm.
And my husband at the time, we both were in real estate. So we tried to be the real estate entrepreneurs and support ourselves and have a family business. So my son was actually with me at 3 months old on a incorporation appointment. Like he's always been a part of the family business. We ran our business as if we were kings and queens. This is our empire. We are here in a strange land and we need to make this happen. And so he was with me, and I transitioned into the working space because I realized that my husband, in my marriage, and the responsibility of being a mom and making sure that my life, my lights, and my livelihood can be sustained. So I had to go back to school. My marriage was failing. So to those who will say anything about me taking the reins or the bulls by the horns and going back to school and expanding my skill set to support my son and my family, um, we can have a conversation offline because
You know,
because what I had to go through, nobody can talk to me about what I overcame to get here. Like you have no idea. So
Yeah.
but I think it goes back to the world wants to put you in a box and
yes,
say this is what you are supposed to do, right?
right.
Um, you know, in my marriage, it was I've always had a heart for music, theater, arts. I've
Mhm.
always, right? That was what I wanted to do, what I'm passionate about, what I believe that is my purpose here.
Mhm.
Yet
Your soul contract.
my so yeah,
So
right?
contract.
Which we're gonna have to talk about that a little bit more because I need to go a little deeper into that. You threw that got me going. But that is what I wanted to do, what my passion is, right? But I'm told when you start a family, you're supposed to do this, and this. And it's like your passions and your dreams are just kind of fall by the wayside, and you know, you gotta do what all the matrix programming things that you're supposed to do. And I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I believe this is just me, and please correct me if my thinking is wrong, being the psychologist here.
No, bring it. Bring
I
it.
wholeheartedly believe that you do what you've been given to do, like what you have the gifts and the abilities to do. Like I believe God has given us gifts, talents, and
Yes.
that is what you're supposed to use. It's not necessarily um, oh, because I now have this responsibility, I got to let that go,
Right.
to provide for my children. And so I've always disagreed with that. What do you say to the people? And Kiana, you may have already asked this question. I may be asking a redundant question, but like, what do you say to the people that believe this is how it's supposed to be done versus, how you talk about you did what you truly wanted to do to take care of your family. What do you say to the people that are like, no, you have to let that go and you have to now fit into this box as a wife, as a husband, as you have to fit into this box because that is what you're supposed to do. What do you say to those people? What would you say to
What I
them?
would say to people who are trying to make you fit into a box based on their ideas, values, beliefs, notions about what life is for them or what would make you happy It's not their place. It's not their place to say.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, when you check out of here, because this cycle of life, this part that we live, is only so short in the grand scheme of the other things that's going on here. It's so short. And it's your only chance, one time, to get your gifts and talents into purpose, so that when you go back up and answer to God, if you want to, let's take the Christian paradigm. When he tells, I'm giving you these gifts. And for those of you who go and make something of it, I'm going to ask you, what is the account for what I gave you? What did you do with the gifts and talents I gave you here on earth? If you can't run to me and tell me what you did with that, I don't want to be the one that God says, flee from me, right?
Wicked.
You know good, and right, you wicked, you know good, unfaithful servant. I want to be like, God, you came here, you sent me here to motivate people. You sent me here to inspire people through my music. And you gave me so many avenues, through country, through pop, through rock. Like, your responsibility, DeAndre, is to take those talents and multiply them. Because not only is it the key to your success, it is the key to your happiness. It is the key to you unlocking more gifts and talents that's waiting for you when you walk through those doors. You become so much more fruitful when you're walking, living in purpose than you would be being an imposter to yourself. Now we're getting into that imposter syndrome again, because now you live in a life that's not really yours.
Wait, hold on.
You allowing somebody else to tell you how you're supposed to live and utilize your God-given talents.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. So you, as a king, DeAndre, have to accept the kingship of standing on what you believe in, even when no one else does.
Now, say...
No, hold on.
Go ahead, Keanu, sorry.
First of all, King DeAndre, I'm an emperor, so you can have your little king. And you can be a little king all you want. I'm the damn emperor. All right. So a couple things, I want to miss a couple of comments I want to bring up.
Okay.
Lisette had a couple comments. She says, "While I can relate, married my high school sweetheart and experienced domestic violence through him." She also said, "Need more mentors. I had a woman in class teaching me how to be a successful wife, and it helped. However, some things you have to learn through life." And the favorite thing I like that she said is, "You don't know my story and what I've been through." And then this is the thing that made me chuckle. I'm sorry, I'm immature. But Danny said, "How would you handle it when the person who is trying to put you in a box is your spouse?" Obviously,
that was going to be my question.
Me, because he's very supportive. That's what made me laugh. He's like, "I'm not talking." That's DeAndre's girl.
But not me, though. But not me. But for my friend.
But that was going to be my next question.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That was going to be my next question for people out there who they have this dream, they have this gift, they have these things that I believe, I know this is what I've been put here to do. When I'm doing these things, man, it is the most peace I've ever felt in my life. And to have a significant other who is, you would think, is to support that, to have, what do you do when that person that has, is there says to you, "That's stupid. That's a hobby. You got to let that go because we have X, Y, Z, and it's like, well, gosh, dang. What do you do?
People who do that can't see themselves doing it. That's why they tell you. I mean, don't put your low expectations on me. But go ahead, Camille.
Well, what I'm sensing is that perhaps those comments were coming from a lack of somewhere, or a need for something, a need for finances, maybe, because if you were happy and you were profitable, right, and you're and you're walking in your authenticity and in your purpose, then the fruits from that, they wouldn't have any quarrels with that. They wouldn't quarrel with that. They would be like, my husband is the bomb. You will wake up to rainbows every morning because you're handling
Mhm.
the business. I mean, but when
Right.
there's a lack in the household, when someone is suffering, then we have to talk about that. And so sometimes our communication, our spouses, the ways in which we grew up, we are not taught conflict resolution in any way. Those things are inherited. So
Mhm.
if you are in a household, where Black households, we usually are very combative. We are sometimes negative psychology. We talk down to each other all the time. Even our parenting styles. My parent, like, what was given to me, I didn't pass that down to my son, and so he's much more positive and healthier and happier. So
Mhm.
sometimes we have to be mindful and give our spouses a little bit of grace for the things that we don't know, right? Because we are all still developing, we're all still growing. But sometimes we also need to communicate in a way where we can share with our spouses what this means to you. If it is your lifeline, if it is the key to your happiness, they need to know that. They
Right.
won't be able to
Mm,
know it based on you just operating in your
well,
fullness, right? Right.
um,
Well, I'm just saying. But
eh,
so here's my point to wrap this up, because y'all ready to get in here. What I'm saying is, if there was a way, what I find is a good tool is to bring your spouse in to try to see what can we do to make it profitable, or what can we do to satisfy the needs that might be underlying there for why they would tell you that that's stupid, that's negative. um but again, I don't know what the dynamics are. We
Right.
would dive a little bit deeper, but
Right.
if you don't have a supportive spouse, and it's a spectrum, and they are abusive, and they are highly abusive, then we've got problems here. But if it's on the spectrum and they are verbally abusive, you guys have been together for a long time, there's some deficits here. Maybe you should try therapy and counseling, things like that, to work through those things
Yeah.
I made that face because
as a
Camille, as
possibility.
I made that face because Camille, of course, from the grand scheme of things, you are correct. Um, and I'm always that guy that looks at some other aspects too. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's simpler. I think sometimes, a lot of times, depending on, and I guess every relationship is different. Like she said, we would have to dig deeper into each person's
Yep.
particular
what is
relationship.
what
And
dynamic?
sometimes there's some simple answers, and we make it more complicated than we need to be. One of the movies I hate with the passion of my soul is Temptation: Confessions of a Marriage Counselor by Tyler Perry.
Oh yeah.
I hate that movie. I hate it with all my soul. Have
Why?
you seen that movie, Camille?
Why? Yes,
I
I
hate that
have.
movie because the summary, and when I tell this, a lot of my friends go, I didn't look at it that way. You have a woman and her high school sweetheart, born in the country, they move to the city. He gets his job, dream job as a pharmacist. She's doing her career. She comes home,
Yeah.
and every time she wants to talk about advancing her career, what does he do? Oh, baby, not right now. Or, oh, baby, let's not worry about that right now. Oh, on top
Yeah.
of that, 3 years in a row, you forgot her birthday. What do you try to do to make up for it? You put a guitar on naked and start playing a song. And she goes, oh, this again? Now, Mr. Freshness comes into her life that's telling her all the dreams that she wants to advance can happen, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, she takes the bait, right? So, what
Yeah.
happens at the end of the movie? Flash forwarding to the end, he gets remarried and has a beautiful kid and still runs his business, right? The guy
Yeah.
who did her wrong is still out there doing wrong, right? Everybody in the movie ends up doing good except for her. Her world falls apart because she cheated on her husband, which was the moral of the movie, when everything that led up to that is completely ignored.
Right.
So and that's why I'm saying,
Us,
like,
honey.
having a simple conversation sometimes is, oh, that's what you want to do, baby. So what's your plan? Let's talk about this.
Right.
You
Let
know,
me get you a coach. Let
yeah,
me call Camille. Let's get
instead
her
of
into
just
the
passing it off.
conversation.
And then you've
Let's
got
go.
to live, but a lot of people also don't want to live through the struggle of when the leading up to that, because the leading up to it's not making any money, you know? Um, so
It's
it's
a
that
lot.
part too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot to go into it.
I
You
haven't
know?
seen that movie,
Yeah,
but
It's really good. You'll like
I haven't
it.
seen that movie.
go watch
But
it.
you said
I've
like
never seen
her.
somebody so sad to go to church at the end of the movie. First of all, she was the only one that aged terribly in the movie.
Well,
So
because she has AIDS, or that
no,
was the
she
thing. She
first of
lost
all, and that's
teeth.
another thing I hated about the movie. She
Oh,
didn't have
yeah.
AIDS. She had HIV. Brandy also had HIV. She didn't age. Why is she the only one to age 50
Right.
years?
I
And
totally
then
get it. I mean,
and then
women
they
get a
asked
bad,
her.
we get a bum deal here on Earth. Like, especially Black women, we get a bum deal
And then
at
they
out of
asked her.
everybody, we're the lowest.
They
So
asked
that's
her.
why.
They asked her. So what you about to do? Oh, I'm gonna go to church. And then she did that slow, depressing walk to church. And I'm like, what am I watching? It's a
That's
terrible
a
message.
very good point.
It's
No,
a terrible
I'm
I
happy
message.
you brought
you
The
mentioned like
message I
her
got out of
world
that
for
movie was
Mars.
don't support your wife. And if she ends up cheating on you, good for her. This is what she gets.
But that's the issue though, because like everybody will point the finger and be like, "Oh, she was wrong for cheating, right?
Yeah.
She stepped out." But you just said it. They ignore it. What's ignored is his lack of attention to
Hmm.
her. The fact
Hmm.
that she brought to him vulnerably, brought to him, letting him, hey, this is something that is important to me, what I
Hmm.
care about. This is something that, calls to me, and I bring it to you, and you basically stump on it, and that spark that I had, you just threw water on it. And then somebody else comes along that don't know me, but we start talking, and I'm just sharing stuff that is I'm passionate about. And then you start to speak life into that. And it's
hmm
like, oh my gosh, I'm
And you
gonna
know what's
gravitate
funny?
towards
Hey, the first warning as the outside guy, which happens a lot, when that outside person starts to get closer to you, sometimes they do that latch stitch effort with you to say to give that one more try. Hey, baby, what do you think about? And then as soon as you shut it off again, you have now
hmm
put the nail in the coffin.
Yes. But everybody wants to look at the thing that
Hmm.
happened, and they
Yeah,
don't want to look at how they only want to
Got there.
point the thing. Yeah, they don't
yeah.
want to look at how we got there, because that means I'm going to have to look at what I did wrong, and I don't want to look
Mhm.
at that because I don't want to
Mhm.
take I want to keep the focus on you, but you want to completely ignore
Well,
all
there's
the
three things there, and we
And
talked
not
about
taking
two of them
any
earlier.
not taking any
accountability.
accountability for it.
One
hmm
is no self awareness. Two is it's low hanging fruit. And then what did we talk about, DeAndre, when we were talking about super holes? That's because it's a lazy argument. It's the
Yeah,
easiest
yeah.
part of the argument. And people will normally go to what's the easiest part of the argument. And there's a percentage to this. You know, it doesn't have to be, it's never 100% one person. I don't care if your
Right.
percentage is 5 and that person's 95. There's
Yeah.
percentages to this. So, it's
Mhm.
not always right down the middle either. It can be 70% your fault and 30 mine.
Yeah.
I
The
Yeah.
get
good thing is,
that's a
I like
lower
what DeAndre
percentage.
is saying is
Hmm.
we need the accountability,
Hmm.
because if I can come to you and be like, baby, I'm so sorry. I was totally wrong for not believing in you. I should have supported you more.
Hmm.
You would be like, girl, okay. I mean, that just changes the whole dynamic between our relationship. But if you go and you go get that from another woman, and as your woman, I'm not lifting you up, I'm not building you up, my days are numbered. Because as a woman, we are very powerful in a man's life. And I like to say, well, for me, I treated
Well, it depends on what man you're talking to, but
whatever. I'm saying as women in general, we, as they say, when they're asking a successful man, like,
Mhm.
how did you do it? He always pays homage to his wife, the one
Yeah,
that's
'cause
been there since day one.
she's sitting off screen like this. You better say me.
Mhm.
Whatever, man.
I'm
There's
kidding. I'm
plenty
kidding.
of
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
relationships out there, and
I'm
the wife
kidding.
did her job. She supported
Yeah.
her husband, and now they have the best life ever. And
Hmm.
then there's the ones who did not support their husbands, and they go off with like acrimony, bitter,
Hmm.
upset, like the movie Acrimony, right? I hope y'all saw that movie, because that is a real look at sometimes how Black women, we will treat our men and not believe in them and not build them up, and then they go off and become successful with the
Man,
next
let
woman.
let me say that it's not just it's and I hate that like black women get a rap for being like that because it's not just black.
It's a narrative.
It's
It is a narrative, but it
Mhm.
is not just black women. It is people, because I don't want to say just women. It is people
Mhm.
that do that, that won't support their significant other, berate them, cast them down, and then they step outside as just a human being who has a need. Human beings, we have a need, and if that need isn't being met, we
Mhm.
find a way to meet that need, right? So it's
yeah.
like I have a need. I'm coming to you to meet that need as I should. You're
Hmm.
consistently closing that door. So then a door opens and now I'm being fed through this need. So I'm going to gravitate more to this because you've already showed me that you're not going to meet that need. But then when it happens, you want to look at it and be like, "Oh, you betrayed me. Oh, you hurt me. You did this." But it's like the betrayal started way back here, bro. Like it
It
started.
did, but the communication though, see, we're missing a lot of communication in
Yeah.
between time. Because
Hmm.
if
Well,
I
I'll give you
say,
the short version.
right, okay, your short
Mhm.
version is, okay, husband, these are my needs, right?
Hmm.
You constantly ignore me. One, year two, year three, year four, year five. I say, okay, husband,
Mhm.
as opposed to stepping out on you and cheating you, let's just call it quits. Let's
Yeah.
just dissolve this amicably, right? But we have a certain percentage of relationships that will take the bait, they'll dissolve amicably, and then they will maintain and preserve whatever friendship they have left. Then you have the other ones who act a whole damn fool, and now it's just
Well,
everybody want to do the fool,
Camille,
right?
could that be
What?
um because we're talking about support, right? And some people don't have, like, we go it's like we circle back to the big, everything's cyclical, right? About the teaching and mentoring. Some people have been taught what support is all wrong. Like,
Right.
there are women who've been taught, oh, he cheated on you 3 or 4 times. You got to make it work. Keep this family together. Who wants to deal with
I
that?
do.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's not support, but some people have been led to believe that's how you support the other one, you know? And I think that's a real thing too.
You're right.
How
It is.
and
Just
all
like
of this.
abuse is a real thing, support, lack thereof, these are all real things. At the end of
Mhm.
the day, I think an individual has to decide on what their value is, what is your self worth, and what do you feel is like, is this relationship worth the fight or not?
Hmm.
Because you're here to do a work. And
'Cause
so it's better
right.
if you have that partner that's going to come alongside you and do that work together
Mhm.
or not. If you're not going to do that, you're both doing each other a disservice. And it's best to release and now go on to the
I like
next
the
experience in
I
life.
like the part that you're saying that, because funny story is, me and my wife finally got our divorce 2 months ago. We've been separated since
Okay.
2014, but it was so funny because we're on the Zoom because we had to do it over Zoom, and
Yes.
there's like 30 other couples. Everyone looks miserable except me and her. We're the only two smiling and kikiing with each other. People are looking at us like, what is wrong with these two nut jobs? you know and then when we did the judge said, she said her name. She's like, I need your ID. She's like, oh, I left it on my desk. She's like, well, you didn't know you're gonna need it. She's like, look at their desk. And I said, this is why I'm getting a divorce. And she laughed. My ex-wife laughed, and everybody's like, what is going on? So then at the end they ask you, well, Mr. Stevens, do you have anything else you want to say? I said, yeah, no takes backsies. And she laughed, and everybody's still puzzled. They're like, why are they happy? You know what? I'm friends with a lot of exes. I'm friends with my ex-wife. You know why? That thing that Camille said. When you see the writing on the wall, be an adult and separate. But we have too many adults that treat their marriage and their dating like they're still in high school and they're 40 years old.
Yeah. There's no real like great. If you are able to stay together like some people were 50 years ago and be happy, great. But if that's not you, then you're doing yourself and your partner a disservice because your person is out there. And it's sad that you'll go through life and you'll get to the end of it and you'll be bitter and you'll be so regretful for all the things you did not do because this time is fleeting.
Mhm.
So I would just encourage all those who
Mhm.
are out there, do not take
Hold
abuse
on,
in any
DeAndre.
form, way, shape, or form. You are too beautiful, man, woman, child. You deserve more. And you have to have boundaries in relationships, in your marital relationships, even. And be happy, choose to be happy, work together as best you can. But if you cannot, and it becomes life threatening,
Mhm.
then sweetie, just release each other and enjoy life.
She called me out in
Be
three
successful.
ways. She said, "Man, woman, and child." I'm a man. I think like a woman and have a mind of a child. All right. So what we're gonna do
Peace and
is
success.
we're gonna do a second episode with her in the future
Please.
about the in impersonator syndrome, imposter syndrome.
Imposter phenomenon.
Yeah, imposter phenomenon. Because
Yes,
DeAndre knows
thank
that well.
you.
He impersonated a great football player for most of his
Woo!
career. Uh, but he's going to get into our best segment so that we can get that in before the end of the show. Go ahead, DeAndre.
Yeah, so as you guys know who have been with us, we do what we call weekly wins. It is our way of, and all the negative that goes on in the world, for us to just stop and be grateful for one thing that happened in our life. And so my weekly win is I am in a theater production here called Rent in Greenville, South Carolina. And my character, I am Benjamin Coffin the Third. Oh, Benny boy. And we started rehearsals, but my director reached out to me and asked me to um, perform on September 22nd, sing a song for this show on behalf of our entire theater. So basically, to represent our theater, and I thought that was a huge thing because of all the people that, and I personally feel like there are so many other amazing people, but he asked me to do it, and so that is my weekly win. It made me extremely happy. So there we go.
Oh, can I give you a round of applause? Y'all help me give him a
Please.
round.
I'm not going to give him a
I
round
love
of
it.
applause until
Congratulations.
I'm sure that he doesn't cancel our show on the 22nd. When he
I will
shows
be
up,
there.
I know you will. You say you will, but I'll give
I
you a
will
round of
be there,
applause
man.
then. Well, I'm going to give mine because we always like our awesome guests to do their weekly win and that be the freshest weekly win. My weekly win was I went somewhere that I've never been. We always think of places outside of the country to go travel. I want to go to Europe. I want to go to Africa. I want to go to Asia. And there's so many places in the States I haven't been. So I went, of all places, South Dakota. Um, I was in
Hmm.
Spearfish, South Dakota. I went to Deadwood, South Dakota. I was hanging out with one of my dear friends. It was actually an amazing time. There's actually way more stuff to do in South Dakota than I thought there was to do in South Dakota. So
Hmm.
that was a pleasant experience being away. You could breathe up there. It was so refreshing. Um, and now I'm back here in the South, but I'm back. But
Okay.
that was my weekly win. And my second one was not realizing we didn't have a guest lined up and calling the awesome, phenomenal, and vibracious Camille. Um, she
Thank
was
you.
my seventh choice, and no, I'm just kidding. I called her.
No, you did
I
not.
called
Okay.
her and I said, "You want to come on the process with DeAndre Presley?" I was like, "He used to play football. He played in San Diego." And he said, "He played for the Chargers. No, he didn't play for the Raiders. I'll
I
think about it."
all
That's
that
what she
there,
said.
bro.
So,
Bro.
but she didn't hold you against you. What's
Thank
your
you.
weekly win, Camille?
Honestly, my weekly win, I'm still on the Avanti high. Just signing that contract with them this week is huge for me. It really is. I feel that was all I needed. I don't have any worries whatsoever about what's going to be happening from this moment moving forward. I know I'm going to get connected with a couple, if not a few, really good agents with the assistance for the assistance with Avanti. So I feel very, very happy about this and look forward to a long term relationship with them. Totally. I mean, like until I'm 80. Like, yes, I'm one of those. I will do. Remember the old school? Okay, kind of taking it back a little bit. Now I'm telling my age. But I grew up where we used to have the after school specials. Remember the after school specials on HBO?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm looking forward to going back to motivating, to educating. I grew up on the Little Reading Rainbow. Okay, like
It's
LeVar
no
Burton
book. Just take
still
a
getting
look.
down right
The
now.
Reading
Come
Rainbow.
on, y'all. So I'm here for the long time haul, however you want to say it. I'm here because I think not only do my people need me, but young women need me and they need
Man,
to hear from me. So I'm here to do that work.
absolutely.
Camille gonna bring back conjunction junction.
What's your function? Exactly. Okay. Or I might end
Oh
up
my
being like
God.
Rachel. Remember old school Rachel? She used to do the Caribbean. This is Rachel Ray with the Caribbean, and I'm here in St. Lucia. In her little bikini, just living the life, stuff like that. That's what I see myself doing in the
That
future.
is awesome. That is
All
awesome.
right.
Camille, I
Cool.
appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Guys, it
Thank
has
y'all for
been
having me.
phenomenal. We'll have to get you back on for another one because I have notes here, people. I have notes here and questions that I want to ask because I want to dive more into your business and more specifically, what has the process been for you as a Black woman doing this?
Yeah, we didn't do any process talk, but it still was a great show. It
Oh
still was
yeah,
a great show. We didn't do any of the stuff we normally did. Besides, the two things that typically happen on this show is DeAndre learns a lot, and I just be a complete ass. That's usually the format.
God.
That's the format of our show, basically.
No, but I definitely want to be able to dive more into that. What that process has been like for you as a Black woman succeeding, in a country that, let's be honest, that keep Black men, Black women down. Um,
Right.
and so I would love to know more about that. So we have to get you on ASAP.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. I'll talk to my agent and arrange things.
Oh, this is awesome. Well, guys, it has been an amazing hour and 3 minutes. That's pretty long. It's pretty long. But we appreciate you guys, and we will be here next week. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you
Will,
all
Salute.
for
will,
coming
will we be here
out.
next week?
We will, Kiani. We will be here. Tune in
Fingers
live.
crossed.
Your
For
ass
the
better not be on CPT.
Nah,